right, kiddos. So we're going to talk about the change of speed in motion. So we've talked a little bit about just changes in motion in general and changes in energy, but today we're specifically talking about speed in relation to that. So if you kind of picture like, okay, you and your sibling are playing with a ball, and your sibling rolls the ball, but the ball starts slowing down, and it looks like it's going to stop, and so you hit the ball a little further, and it hits the wall and stops, right? So those things all happen because of changes in speed. As well as the way they relate to motion. There are different ways that we can measure speed, miles per hour in a car, meters per second if you're looking at, races, kilometers in a day. There's many different ways that we talk about measuring speed. So speed of an object can change in many different situations. So let's say a car stops moving. That's a change in speed. A car starts moving. That's a change in speed. A car was going really slow and now it speeds up. That's a change in speed. So those are all situations in which speed is going to be a factor. So getting a little more technical about this, motion is just referring to the way in which an object changes its position or location. So whether it's turning or moving or changing directions completely, those things are all going to refer to motion. It can change its motion in different ways. It can slow down, speed up, change directions, all of that. In order for a change in motion to happen to an object, a force has to be exerted. So when you walk down the hallway, your feet are pushing against the floor, and that force is helping you move forward. A force can be a push or a pull. But an object is not going to change its motion unless a force acts upon it. So like when you pull a chair out, that force is what causes the chair to move. So speed is another way that we can describe the motion of an object. So speed is just how fast an object moves over a period of time. So to compare the speed of one object to a different object, you just need to measure for the same amount of distance and by the same type of time. So whether it's per second, per minute, per hour. So like if you were watching two runners and one traveled 10 kilometers in 1 hour and the other traveled 15 kilometers in 1 hour, that second runner is moving the fastest. We can also, instead of looking at like time, like so much per hour, we can also just look at the distance traveled. So if two cars are racing a distance of 1,000 meters, but one car finishes first, finishes faster, then that car was going faster. So speed is defined as distance per unit of time. We most often talk about it as miles per hour because that's how we talk about a car traveling. So moving objects all have energy, and that energy is called kinetic energy. So energy cannot be created or destroyed. It gets transferred. And so for an example, like let's say you're rolling a ball and it hits a toy car that wasn't moving, you'll see that toy car starts moving a little bit, right? So that energy from the ball gets transferred to the car. Sorry, yes, we talked about all of that. So when the moving ball hits the stopped car, it exerts a force on that car, and that force is what causes the toy car to move. It acts in, like if the force acts in the direction that an object is moving, it's going to increase the object's speed. But if the force acts in the opposite direction, it's going to decrease that object's speed. And then a force that happens from like the side is going to change the direction of the object. So the last thing I want to touch base on is friction. So friction is a force that opposes the motion of two objects that come in contact together. So friction always acts opposite of the direction of the object's motion. So it's going to slow an object down. So for example, like in your bicycle, when you hit the brakes are putting opposite force against the tires, and that's causing friction, and it causes the tires to slow down and stop. again, yes, it causes it to stop, but energy can't be destroyed. So what happens to that energy? Well, if you've ever like rubbed your hands together really fast, they get warm, right? So what friction does is it takes that energy and it transfers it into thermal energy, and so that's where that heat comes in that we feel sometimes. So let me get to our key points before I head on out of here. So if it will load. Okay. So what changes motion? Motion of an object changes when a force acts upon the object. How do different forces cause objects to change speed or direction? An object that's at rest is going to stay sitting there doing nothing until a force comes upon the object. Objects that are in motion are going to stay in motion until a force acts against the object. A push in the same direction is going to increase the speed. A push in the opposite direction is going to decrease the speed. And a push or a pull in any other direction is going to cause the object itself to change directions. Friction is a force that's going to slow down or stop a moving object. And we can compare speeds of objects by looking at how many things in a certain amount of time happen, or by seeing what completes a certain amount of distance first. And that's all I've got for you guys. Hope it helps.